One, Donald Trump lectured by a bishop in church after he does away with more than one flag flying above United States embassies and limits sex and gender to 2. We'll break that down with the host of the Michele Tafoya podcast, Michele Tafoya. 2, the highs, the lows, the ups, the downs, the criticisms, and the reviews of the first episode of the Will Cain Show. 3, what happens now for Never Trumpers? We break it down with our lunch break panel. It is the Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel and the Fox News Facebook page. Always on demand by subscribing at Apple or on Spotify. You're joining us every Monday through Thursday at 12 o'clock Eastern Time on YouTube. Just set a reminder by hitting subscribe. You can join us every weekday and jump into the comments section, become a member of the Willisha. Speaking of the Willisha, let's bring the boys in New York and Florida to join us into the home studios here of the Will Cain Show. We were talking this morning, guys, and we got a lot to get to.
Hey, where's your camera going there?
Where is my camera going there? I got a lot going on.
I know. It's okay.
TV star, director.
I was like, are you trying to put yourself off camera or what's going on?
He's doing it all.
I should.
There you go.
Based upon some of the feedback yesterday.
No.
I should.
Look at that microphone.
The oh-so-controversial microphone. Big Mike. Big Mike, the microphone. It's been named by the hosts of The Five. Yeah, man. I mean, look, Dan, I'm a little shell-shocked. I'm a little in my head. And I know that I shouldn't be, And, I know that patience is a virtue, and I have to extend grace and patience for myself and ask it similarly of the audience, because I know that what we're doing now is not going to be what we're doing in a month aesthetically. Probably, some variations in content. But, yeah, careful with my studio directions, because that's the sensitive spot right now.
Sorry. I was just like, we need Will Cain on camera for the Will Cain Show. That's just essential, I think.
Hey, we were talking this morning. So one of the hard things about launching a show right now, and even if we hadn't launched a new show at Fox, like just doing this show every day is like, how do you keep up? It is really stunning how quickly and furiously Donald Trump is taking action. I mean, I don't know what the numbers are. 200 executive actions. I think it's 40 executive orders within those 200 executive actions. And it's just so much. Literally, there is so much. And for someone who wants to, do a deep dive and see what matters and see what the fallout and the effects of all these things are, it's just, it's like drinking from a fire hose. Like, you're thirsty, but like you can't figure out where to start. But one of the things I was talking about with you guys this morning was, think about it if you were on the left. Like, I do check out what they're saying, and I'm like, it's a full-on assault by volume, as it always has been with Donald Trump. Like, they can't latch on to any one thing for a full freak out because, oh my God, there's like 4 other things happening at the same time, and tomorrow, inevitably, there's new things. Today, the big news is that by 5 p.m. today, basically every DEI employee is being placed on paid leave. And then I think it phases out here over the next week or two to where it's gone. Yesterday it was Birthright Citizenship. It's just so much. So, because he's our Brooklyn brunch correspondent and he has probably the best exposure to the left, you told us 2 days that it's actually like a generalized freak out.
People are just freaking out in general. It's not about one specific thing. It's just about Trump being in office, and they're upset at the inauguration. And I'm just hearing people just sad and mad and upset, and not about any specific topic, like individually. It's just a general it's just a general feeling that things are going downhill from their perspective.
Okay, going downhill, why? And you told me, like, let's take two examples. Saying things like, I guess I'll have to make sure that my grandparents were born in America.
Birthright
Otherwise,
citizenship.
I won't be a citizen. Like,
it's an overreaction. I don't even know I didn't know how to respond, and I don't know how to respond.
But it's also just a bad information bubble. Yeah. It's really a bad information bubble. Like, you believe. It's like this bishop that spoke yesterday. Trump attended this service, right? And this bishop, in fact, let's play that, because what she said, it's not just wrong and inappropriate. She's living in a fantasy land. Here, let's play this. Watch this yesterday from this bishop at an Episcopal church yesterday in front of J.D. Vance and Donald Trump.
In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families. Some who fear for their lives.
She went on, by the way, to talk about illegal immigration as well, right? So the people that pick your crops are good people seeking a better life, worthy of human dignity. That's just a reflection of, it's so much. It's a reflection, but to tie it to what you're hearing in the Brooklyn Brunch Crew, like,
it's fear.
A bad information bubble. Mm-hmm. You believe that there is a reason, and you're perpetuating it, that LGBTQ children should be fearing for their lives, that you're not going to be a citizen because you don't know if your parents were born in America. You know, it's crazy. Wasn't there another one you told me? Everybody's birthright citizenship, and you were telling me there was another one.
The Elon thing is a huge thing. It's definite. He meant to do what he did. That's all they care about.
Right.
Like, they were looking for something to blame and have go wrong on Monday, and that was the one thing. And you can't tell them otherwise that it wasn't that.
That he did a Nazi salute.
It was definitely that to them. Yes, that's it.
No debate.
AOC's in on it. If you look at the comment section under AOC's criticism of Elon on that, it's like you could just see how genuine they are, and then there's other people going back and forth like, oh, here's 4 or 5 politicians that did that, and then they're like, show the Elon video. It's clear that he did like 3 other things that like proved that it was an official Hitler deal.
It became a big problem in my household too, for a minute.
Yeah?
Yeah. Well, the wife is a little more on the left side, and I was trying to say, well, you know, he didn't mean to do that. It's not. And she's like, nope, that's it. But I know how to toe that line very well.
Didn't you tell us you told her to calm down?
I
may have not said the words "calm down." No. I'm newly married, so I like my marriage and I love my wife very much. Hi, honey, you're great. But yes,
one of my kids' soccer coaches, when they were real little, great coach. One of my kids' teammates was like having he wasn't having a temper tantrum. I think he got in a fight or a physical altercation on the field. Not full-on punches thrown, but he was definitely in that zone of like, now I want to really manhandle this kid, right? So he gets subbed off, and he's like super in his head, like aggro, and I can't remember what the coach said to him, but he didn't say calm down, right? And then I talked to him later. I was like, hey, how you handled Craig was awesome, man. Like you just handled it. He goes, I was like, I would have just been like, and I've said it a million times to members of my family, calm down. He said, have you ever known someone to calm down after you tell them to calm down? Like, it gets
way worse. Way worse.
It gets way worse. Like the didactic instruction, calm down, does not calm one down. It just doesn't. So I'd advise you don't sacrifice your marriage in pursuit of defending Elon. I mean, it's in pursuit of defending the truth, and I credit you. I credit you because it's absurd.
Yes.
No offense. It's absurd.
A little common sense, that's all.
I mean,
did I say that?
The other thing is, like, you can't spend 4 years calling everything Hitler and then expect everybody's going to like give credibility. Oh, here we go. Yeah, for sure, Hitler. I mean, Elon Musk is a socially awkward man doing a socially awkward gesture, touching his heart. My heart goes out. I just did it, and everybody can say I'm a Nazi. Like, it's just insane to think everyone you are opposed to is a Nazi. But that's the point. Like, so much bad information bubble, so much generalized freak out because of the quantity and volume of action taken by Donald Trump. I want to get into a lot of this, and I want to talk more about this bishop for a minute because I think it's fascinating and worthy. And so let's get into that with story number one. Michele Tafoya is the host of the Michele Tafoya podcast, and she joins us now on the Will Cain Show. Hey, Michele.
Well, you are a busy man. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. It's I'm swimming. My head, I'm up above my ears, you know. I'm trying to tread water.
Yeah, I get
You
it.
do?
But you know what? Be a duck. Have the feet going wild under the water and have just the calm above the water.
Yeah, that's 100% true. You know what I keep saying to people, Michele? I can't wait till I have been doing this for 3 months. Like the first day, the first week, it's not like, I don't know. I just can't wait to be doing, look at you. Like by the time you were where you were doing sideline reports, and honestly, this is how I felt doing Fox and Friends and many other solo shows that I've done or hosted. It's like that athlete scenario, you know, I don't have to think. I'm just doing it. I'm just not there yet. You know what I mean? It's you've seen every pitch, Michele, and it doesn't matter what pitch is coming. You've already seen it.
Yeah, you'll get there, and you know that, and you said that. Give yourself grace. In the meantime, enjoy the journey. I mean, this is life is hard, and that's on purpose. So this is great.
That's really good. Life is hard, and that's on purpose. I think you were hanging out, so you probably have heard it anyway, what this bishop said at an Episcopal service yesterday in front of J.D. Vance and Donald Trump. Their reactions, by the way, were amazing. People are saying J.D. Vance looks like Jim from The Office while he's doing it. And this is what Donald Trump, it was great. And by the way, handled really classy. I think the way they made some faces, but they sat there. They didn't walk out.
Who was amazing was Usha Vance, because JD turned and looked at her when she got into the gays and lesbians and trans families are scared. He just looked at her, and she did not flinch. She did not make eye contact with him. It was as though she wanted to say, "No, I'm just going to be here respectfully," and it was amazing.
By the way, Donald Trump did say something after the service. Here's what he had to say about that sermon.
Mr. President, what did you think of the sermon? What did you think of the sermon? What did you think of the
What did you think of the sermon?
What did you think? Did you like it? Did you find it exciting? Not too exciting, was it? I didn't think it was a good service, no. Thank you very much.
Thank you, press. Thank you, press.
They can do much better.
What did you think of the service, Michele?
I did not enjoy. I did a little digging. This woman, this bishop, was also out in the 2020 George Floyd riots saying how we needed to replace the president. So she's not a fan of Donald J. Trump, and no one has to be a fan of Donald J. Trump. But, look, I don't know why she was chosen to be the person at this service, unless she was the only one available. I don't know. I mean, she's clearly very anti-Trump. So why do you have a prayer service where you're going to go and get lectured? I found it inappropriate. I found it, like you said, she's not in the real world.
Right. She's living in some fantasy reality. There's so many things that I thought were inappropriate about Michele. First of all, I think it's the wrong venue. I don't think you should use a worship service to forward your own politics.
Correct.
Second, it was insincere. Insincere in that she caged it in all the breathy, concern trolling voice that one would use to try to act like you are making a plea or an argument for a conversation with the leader of the free world. That's insincere. She wasn't, because there would have been many opportunities to do so other than a pulpit in front of an entire crowd and cameras. You could have talked to the president whenever you want with that level of sincerity. So it was fake.
It was performative. Yeah, it was performative. And I think she got, though, what she wanted out of it, though, didn't she? Because we're all covering it, Will. I mean, we're all talking about it. And I'm certain there is a section of society that is fully behind her and what she did. We know that too. So they're going to go, yes, you go, Bishop. And the rest of us are going to go, really?
Yeah. Okay, there's one more level. I want to see what you think of this as well. This was not my original thought, but I also heard this close to home. There's something about when you listen to her, and I think there's deep psychology here, Michele, that applies to a lot of this ideology, where almost she wants it to be the case that LGBTQ kids are fearing for their life.
Yeah.
And I think that's true. Like, she is saying this with almost a zeal. And I think that's true, and there's a reason, I think, for that. It's that, it's self-justification, right? I'm here. I'm their spiritual outlet. You know, a garbage man needs garbage. That's why he's, in business. That's why he has a job. There has to be trash to be taken out. She needs people fearing for their lives on these levels to give her the self-justification of being their spiritual outlet. And then secondarily, I think, Michele, what that reveals is this is about her. It's not about those kids. Like, she sees herself as a savior, a white savior, a marginalized savior, whatever it may be. That is what this is about. And I think she needs to take a long look in the mirror about like what this is really. This is about her, not these other people she's pretending that it's about.
Well, there's another element of psychology here, and it revolves around fear and cognitive therapy. And that is, if you're in fear of something, what's the evidence that that fear is founded upon? In other words, if I'm afraid of sharks, I probably shouldn't go in the water because that's where sharks are. But when your little child is afraid of sharks lying in bed at night going, I'm scared that a shark's going to get me. You tell them, have you ever seen a shark walking down the street or in somebody's house? No shark's going to get you here, honey. So in other words, where is the evidence that LGBTQ plus families are in danger? And I remember when Ellen DeGeneres said this way back. She said, I would not have President Trump on this couch next to me because I would feel, because he's dangerous. I wouldn't feel safe. I wouldn't feel safe. Like, what is going to happen when you talk to somebody? There's no evidence that this fear is founded on anything that is, like tangible.
Right.
Do we see people being hauled out of their houses for being trans? No. So, and because the president has said we're going to talk in terms of male and female in the United States government, does that marginalize? They may feel that way. But I'm afraid for their lives.
Right. Let's move into that because your point, one of the executive orders that Donald Trump has signed is that the federal government will now only recognize two genders. Now, this is a movement away from the policies under Joe Biden where they began to expand the options for people. And you say, okay, is this like sort of a virtue signal in the culture war? No, like there are real world effects. Under the Biden administration, one could select X on their passport, like not male, not female, but X. The Social Security Administration was moving towards expanding the options for you. And I think most importantly for the world that you and I have paid so close attention to, sports, well, what this now forces is the DOE to revisit Title IX and whether or not gender is a protected class when it comes to discrimination. And that will roll downhill because if it's not, there's not an argument for saying, well, a school or a conference making a rule against a boy playing in girls' sports isn't discriminatory under Title IX because there's only two genders. And this gender right here is for female sports.
I think we get caught up the word gender versus the word biological sex, or two words, biological sex.
Right.
Gender, people talk about gender fluidity. Fine. You're a female, but you're a tomboy. Okay. You're a male, but you're a little more effeminate, whatever. Maybe you identify as trans. Who cares? I'll ask you this. Well, I wonder what insurance companies have done. Because see, the average woman lives longer than the average man. And therefore, life insurance is more expensive for men than it is for women. So if you're a trans woman, in other words, a biological man, but you identify as a woman, are you going to get an insurance company to give you a break on your life insurance because you identify as a woman? No. As far as I know, insurance actuarial tables and insurance companies, you are either male or you're female, and that's how we're going to determine your average length of life based on data. And so I'm drawing that out as an example because this is how we got to look at this. This is factual stuff. And so And you and I have seen it in sports. Look, I've covered swimming at the Olympics a couple of times, and nowhere will you see a bigger difference. Now, can Katie Ledecky kick the ass of some male swimmers? Yeah, she can. But those male swimmers probably aren't swimming in the Olympics like she is. They're not at her level. So it's just, this has been such an absurd, insane time to be alive. Also very fun and interesting because of this sort of, to me, it's just so upside down that anyone could say someone born a male should compete against girls. It's so hard for me to even speak about it because it's such an absurdity that we shouldn't have to defend it. And
that particular issue, which has resonated with so many people, sports, affects people on the level of the concept of fairness. But here's the thing. Because I think fairness sometimes is not really it's not an easy prism through which I view the world. Like, it's just not instinctive to me to go fair, not fair. But real and insane makes a lot of sense to me. So what I'm getting at is your example of insurance is awesome. Okay, so here's the thing. Our world is organized according to reality, and part of that reality is biological reality. Yeah. And yes, we make federal laws, but everywhere you walk in the world, this reality is what we build structures upon. Those structures cumulatively are what we call civilization. Right. Now, you point out, okay, there's a reason that insurance, life insurance, treats men and women differently. Those reasons are grounded in reality. Now, if you all of a sudden take a pillar of that reality out, there's no such thing as just two genders. What type of civilizational structures fall? And here's how it would have worked. This is why I love your example. Okay, I am a trans woman, so I'm a dude now saying I'm a woman. I go to an insurance company and I want to take out a life insurance policy. Right. They give me a rate based upon the male rate of life expectancy. Correct. Right? I go, that's discrimination because Michelle's rate is way lower. So I sue you under gender discrimination. And if the federal government's recognizing more than one gender, all these governmental agencies like the DOE or whatever it may be rely on that. And by the time you get to the Supreme Court defers to the legislative and executive branches to go, well, this is where our policies are set. Trump repositioning all this back to the reality of two sexes lets everything fall back into line. I can't sue the insurance company because of the reality. I'm not a woman.
Right. There are so many directions we can go with this, but see, there's science, and I'm not talking Dr. Fauci as science. I'm talking about just the way that we reproduce, the way that all mammals reproduce. I don't think we have to get too into this, but you need, even if you're a lesbian couple that wants to conceive, guess what? You need a male because you need the sperm to fertilize the egg. So there you go. I mean, it's very basic. And I had Gad Saad on my podcast recently. He's that Canadian professor. He's so fascinating. Sure. And he talks about this is like postmodernism. They're trying to break down these structures, and it makes things so topsy-turvy and so like you said, so disorganized that it does break down society, and we've seen that in action.
By the way, Michele, this is something that was just put out here just a few minutes ago by Fox News' Peter Doocy. He says, we can exclusively report for the first time anywhere the contents of President Biden's letter to President Trump. Want to read it together? I don't know if you've seen this yet, Michele. Okay, here we go. He almost read it live on air when he pulled it out.
That would have been epic. Yeah.
It would have been epic. Here's what President Biden said to President Trump. Dear President Trump, as I take leave of this sacred office, I wish you and your family all the best in the next 4 years. The American people and the people around the world look to this House for steadiness in the inevitable storms of history. And my prayer is that in the coming years will be a time of prosperity, peace, and grace for our nation. May God bless you and guide you as he has blessed and guided our beloved country since its founding. Joe Biden. Really classy.
Yeah, it is. He could have read that on, I wonder if it was handwritten or typed with a signature. I'm curious about that. Because I would think at this point, Joe Biden's handwriting might not be that legible. So I wonder if or somebody else writes it for you and then you put your big signature on it. I was just curious about that detail.
I saw
Juicy,
still
get back
shots
to us.
of. I saw
there are
still
still
shots of
shots?
other letters.
Yeah.
No, of other letters that have been released
okay.
from George W. Bush to Obama, Obama to Trump, I think was in there.
Right.
They're all handwritten, to your point. But I would not be surprised. I mean, I don't think we're taking a cheap shot by saying I wouldn't be surprised at all if Joe Biden's handwriting was not in the top shape.
Right. Mine's going downhill every day.
Well, kids can't even do cursive or handwriting. I print, by the way. I print.
Yeah,
and,
I don't do
and
much
you know
cursive
what?
either.
You don't? And
Not
I have
much.
a terrible habit, Michelle,
Mhm.
because I do all caps when I print. I
Why
don't know where I
wouldn't you?
went
They're
along the way.
easiest to decipher, though. They're the easiest ones to decipher, and you can't really mix them up. Some of they're caps, and then they're the small letters. What do you call those? Just small letters. Anyways, those can
Lowercase?
be lowercase. Thank you. Those can be misconstrued. They can. But when you do them in caps, they're pretty clear.
They're distinct. Yeah,
They're
I agree.
distinct.
They're
You can tell,
distinct.
yeah.
You're not going to mix up an E and a C in caps.
Exactly.
But
in the lowercase, you can if you're writing by hand.
Donald Trump also put out an order saying that everybody under the State Department, so that includes U.S. embassies, will now only fly one flag, Michelle, the American flag. Limited exceptions. Those would include the POW MIA flag, which can be flown. But this is a repivot from what we began to see. Certainly under the Biden administration, we saw the trans flag, draped from the Capitol. And then I think going back 3 or 4 years, embassies or State Department buildings were encouraged to fly the BLM flag.
Yeah. I like this. It's kind of like school uniforms. Let's just make it cut and dried, right? Let's just tell you what the limitations are. Because if you expand that, imagine how many groups are going to ask for their flag. And the next thing you know, you're going to have 105 flags on every building because you've got 105 interest groups asking for attention. And we don't need that when we're talking about federal buildings because what they represent is the United States of America. And the MIA POW flags, those represent a commitment to a certain kind of person who gave up everything for this country. And I think that's acceptable.
Yes.
But I think all of these other, slicing and dicing flags, they don't, why? I would ask why. Why are those any more important than any other flags that people might want to fly? So, are we going to fly the Ohio State flag now because they won the national championship? No, we're just keep it to the stars and stripes, cut and dried, that rule, and you eliminate a lot of messiness.
No dual loyalty, no
Right.
dual honorific.
Correct.
I'm not into dual anything. I'm not into dual citizenship, by the way, Michelle. I don't like it. Even when Republican congressmen, for example, wore the uniform of the IDF on the floor of Congress, I don't like any question about where our fealty and duty and honor and loyalty lie. And the way that the trans flag and the LGBTQ flag and all that was elevated, it was, and I know this, by the way, Michelle, even at like the local school level, like I know this, like why if we hang an American flag, do we almost inevitably have to also display the trans flag? And it became a thing like that. It was almost like it was a rebuttal.
And it would turn into a slippery slope. And we do know there's a faction of people in this country who honestly, genuinely believe, and we have to acknowledge that the silo they're living in, that the stars and stripes, that the American flag or the Betsy Ross flag were racist, and that the American flag is a sign of white supremacy. So you start coming for that flag. Well, we saw what some of those frat boys did. Where was that again, Will? When they protected the flag? Was it there we go, North Carolina, UNC. But this is a national flag that represents every human being that is a citizen of this country. And so it's not racist. It represents all of us. And so when you start slicing and dicing, this is the slicing and dicing of human beings into these sub-identity groups drives me nuts. And one example, and I know you'll know this one, is suggesting that one black quarterback is more black than another or more authentically black than another because of the way he might dress or wear his hair or talk. That is insane. So to say that, this argument came up recently, and I had Ryan Clark, the ESPN analyst, on my podcast to discuss it, that Lamar Jackson would be the most authentically black quarterback to win a Super Bowl. Not Doug Williams, not Russell, not Patrick, because Patrick's mom is white and Patrick's married to a white woman. So that makes him more mainstream and less authentically black. That to me,
wow, how did that go, Michele, with Ryan Clark?
It was really interesting. You should watch
Did you
it.
debate?
All your viewers should watch
will.
it. No, it's in the bank. It's already on the YouTube channel, or Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. He is there. I was trying to be very respectful, Will. I wanted to listen to him, and I thought he was great for volunteering to come on and talk about it. But in the end, he really is saying that there is a difference. And yeah, could you say that Patrick Mahomes is more mainstream than Lamar Jackson? Maybe you could say that. Does that make him less black or less authentically black? I think that's the question. Or Russell Wilson, and he even cited that Russell Wilson's first wife was white, even though now he's married to Ciara. And, it's just that kind of nuance to identifying who people authentically are, that should trouble people.
Do you know what's interesting about that, Michele?
My dog.
Of course, I know what you're talking about, and I know what they're talking about. Look, I've been around black culture enough to know what they're talking about. Okay, what's interesting though is in American pop culture writ large, including dialogue within Black America, there is a push towards accepting people as individuals and not policing them as the choices they make as an individual, right? So there's a great amount of liberty given to who you are and expressing yourself who you are. But then on the other side, which is in total contradiction to it, simply the idea of being authentically black suggests there are people who are worthy of doing it and are doing it, which is police other people into what it means to be authentically black. You see what I'm saying? You're denying them as individuals. You're denying Patrick Mahomes as an individual by suggesting that some other person is authentically black, and you're defining authentic blackness. Yeah. And I get where it's coming from, but it's not coherent. It reflects a lack of coherence in their own thoughts. And I actually think it really robs people of their individual and their humanity for some other group, ill-defined, to be able to say what is real, what's authentic, and what is not.
Why? And who gets to make those definitions? Who gets to say who's authentically feminine? Who gets to say who's authentically Hispanic? Am I? Because my dad sure was. But most people don't know that. Okay, so how far does this go? And I asked Ryan Clark that. When do we stop? Saying the first this, the first that, and he said as soon as there are no more firsts. And I thought, well, but see, people want to be the first something. It's this sort of look at me, attention-seeking society we're living in. So, I could say, well, I was the first female sideline reporter who was Hispanic and had brown eyes and brunette and olive skin. That makes me a first. It's silly. It's just silly.
And he was arguing on this case that Lamar Jackson would be the first authentically black quarterback to win the Super Bowl.
He wouldn't go, and he wouldn't use the term authentic and black together. He said Lamar is authentically representing a culture. And I said, well, what culture is that? And he said, that's the black culture. So he was circling around.
What does that say to Doug Williams? What does that say to Doug Williams?
Exactly. Listen, we cannot forget that Doug Williams broke ground and that he was the first.
Right.
Period.
Right.
The end.
Well, I will definitely check that out. I think everybody listening should check that out on the Michele Tafoya podcast. By the way, Michele, we got the AFC and NFC championship games this weekend. I just want to take your pulse on something. Okay. Monday night, national championship game, Ohio State, Notre Dame. I'm going to be honest. I've never done this in my life on a game that big. I had it on Fox News for the first quarter more than I did on ESPN. I was more riveted by Donald Trump taking a freewheeling 60-minute Q&A session while writing executive orders and changing America than I was the first quarter of Ohio State, Notre Dame. I've never done it in my life. But I also think this week, like I'm still riveted by what's happening in America when it comes to Donald Trump, more than I'm focused on the AFC and NFC championship games.
It's going to be an interesting weekend. My husband, who is the biggest college football fan you'll ever find, and a Big Ten guy because he played baseball at the University of Minnesota, and his dad was a football coach at the University of Minnesota, was watching the national championship game. I was in here watching the president. I'd go out and check out the game, and it was boring. By comparison to me, it was boring. It was dull. Now, that was partly because of the game, but then partly I just didn't care because I thought the whole country is starting this new era, and I'd rather witness this.
Right.
I can find out about the game
Right.
later. I felt the same way, Will. It was fascinating. And I will say this, my husband, who's far less political than I am, came home from work yesterday. I had Fox News, I had the 5 on or something, and then Trump came on with all those AI execs. And my husband just started kind of watching, and he was laughing. He goes, I forgot how much I miss this. Like, it's entertaining. Like it or not, it is riveting and entertaining.
I know it. It is. We're back. All right. So is Michele Tafoya. Check her out on the Michele Tafoya podcast. You just heard about one great episode, and there are many, many more. Michele Tafoya, thanks so much for being on the Will Cain Show.
You got it, Will. Anytime. Good to see you. And congrats again, if I can get that. Congrats again on the new show.
Thank you so much, Michele. Speaking of the new show, all right, comments, reviews, criticism, self-reflection on the first episode of the Will Cain Show. Next. Great first show, so I think jacket, shirt, and no tie is the vibe, like Dave Portnoy's look yesterday, says Suzanne on YouTube. Mike Josie says, I agree, no tie. Some of the comments here on the first episode yesterday of the Will Cain Show. Let's bring the boys in New York back in here. Okay, it's in the books. I'm out of the gates. That's the accomplishment.
Hell yeah. Boom.
You know what?
Yeah, like what? Where are you going, bud?
I don't know. What I liked best in what I heard from you three, several other people I respect, and by the way, 2 days you were in the control room yesterday.
It was crazy
right?
seeing it. Yeah. I mean, I have my little control room here, and it's way different.
Mm-hmm.
So I heard 2 things. It was different, and it was you, Will. So I like that. Now, the question has always been, to what extent do we make this show out of the gates different? I believe that over time, and it's calculated for it to happen over time, because I am cognizant and sympathetic of the way a television audience views television and does it habitually and gets used to seeing a certain type of thing. That you don't come in overnight and you don't, I'm revolutionizing. No. But the goal is to be authentically me, right? And in order to be that over time, it will inevitably end up pretty different from things that exist on television. So I'm excited in some ways that people already see the elements of that. You guys did, right?
Mm-hmm.
Both different from daytime and different from primetime.
Yep.
And now, obviously, would you say the most controversial thing was this microphone?
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, I love it. I'm a radio guy, so I loved it there. But some people were just a little confused by it.
I know what this show is going to look like, literally aesthetically, over time, and this is going to be a part of it. Not gratuitously, but because it's going to be part of how I present, how I like wear a show. Like, it won't be this exact one, by the way.
You didn't touch it, though, like you're doing all the time here, by the way.
That was difficult.
I know. I saw you wanting to be like, hey, so here we go.
I did see one comment, do less with your hands. I am a hand.
What do I do? I don't know.
You do the fold.
No, I think I'll have the kind of mic where I can stand up.
Yeah.
And I want to stand up, and I want to sit down. And I'm a mover. Like every other cameraman who's ever been involved with me is like, oh, God, it's Will. He moves around. I do.
Yeah.
I rock back and forth. It's what I do. And I don't want to be
enthusiastic.
a stuffed shirt sitting still behind a table. It's not who I am. And so if we're going down the path of being who I am, the set and the environment will inevitably gravitate towards me in that way. Second piece of feedback that I liked is there were people that felt like I really, at moments, was able to show who I am.
Yeah.
My personality, my thought process, my curiosity, my ability to laugh at myself. Here's a great example, okay? 2-a-days. Let's share with the audience how it went when I tossed it over to the 5.
Yeah.
Joining me now are the hosts of the 5, Judge Janine, Jessica Tarlov, Jessica Waters, Dana Perino, and Greg Bedford.
I love it.
They laugh.
Honestly, Will, I was going to say something nice,
Transgenders are out.
and now I'm just going to blank all over this show. I don't like the microphone. I don't understand it.
I
What
knew it.
town is in the background? And the graphics package, they got to go back to work. Anything else?
Jessica, that was rude.
Jesse, I will pass all those notes on to all of the people involved in all those decisions, but I think they might have just heard you as well. So,
All right, well, I'm not going to be misgendered and just
advice?
take it laying down.
Let's get that
I
on.
heard it. So everybody, hold on. Everybody says I called him Jessica Waters. I don't hear that right there.
Yeah,
you did.
Did I?
100%.
Yeah, let me play it again. Hold on.
Joining
Absolutely.
me now are Okay, the just- hosts of the 5, Judge Janine, Jessica Tarlov, Jessica Waters, Dana Perino, and Greg Bedford. Oh, yeah.
You definitely did.
Put that on a T-shirt.
Because it was Jessica,
did.
Jessica.
All right, Jesse and Jessica.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's times when you're doing TV when things come out of your mouth and you don't even know it in the moment.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it. There's things I had no idea. And so there was a lot of crosstalk, and I have a delay, which we're working on resolving today. But he said the misgendered thing, and I didn't even know really in the moment
You
what
were
he was talking
laughing.
about.
I know. I saw it. You were like, ha, sure, okay. I was like,
I didn't know I'd called him Jessica Waters,
Yeah.
which is perfect, by the way. If there's any rebuttal to his criticisms of our set that I could have come up with, there's nothing better than having called him Jessica Waters.
so people in the control room, when you said Jessica Waters, they turned around to me and were like, did he mean to do that as like a joke? I said, I don't think so.
Okay, so that's the so people were like, okay, Will doesn't take himself that seriously, so that's good. You got to see that part of your personality, which is 100% true. Like, I don't care that Jesse had all that to say. Some of people close to me are like, F Jesse. I'm like,
Yeah,
no, I don't care. Like, that's not who I am. I don't care. But the microphone and the background.
What town is it?
I don't know what town it is.
That's what everyone kept asking us is what town is that? I'm like, I have no idea.
It looks like it's somewhere in the Appalachian region, judging on the mountains that are in the back. So it could be somewhere in North Carolina, could be Virginia, could be Western Virginia. It does kind of look like Roanoke, Virginia, but I'll circle back.
Okay.
I'm so curious. I want to know.
James has been trying to.
He's like, is that Main Street in Roanoke, Virginia?
Our
He's been doing that with our other background as well.
that
the whole
one's
time.
that one is Lexington, Virginia.
God, you're weird.
Hey, for the record, I like it. I know a lot of
Yeah.
people think it's too busy or something, or it looks like a postcard. I also like it like this, with this shot.
I do.
For those of you listening on Spotify app or terrestrial radio, I've got it up in the Will Cain Studios. They're not going to like this. They're not going to like this. But I'm going to ask you guys something. Do you like this? I'm going to show you my
Are
vote.
these all the options?
Oh man.
Yeah.
I like that.
This was more my vote.
The sunset.
Huh?
Yeah, I like it. The sunset.
I like the sunset. I don't like the buildings. The buildings in the other town had some flavor to them. They had some like Pax Americana. This is just too corporate rectangle.
But this is Texas, man. This is what Middle America looks like. I think you're right on the background of saying the other one is pretty pretty probably like Appalachian or Midwestern.
I'm going to send you some
not
options
gonna like
later.
it.
It's a 4 o'clock
You're not supposed to
show.
live TV.
Yeah,
You're not
it can't
sup-
be sunset.
So that's too much. Can't be sunset.
sunset.
Yeah.
I mean, look how pretty that building is with like the red brick and the white columns. It's awesome.
Is that Connecticut?
I think
that could be Connecticut.
Yeah, it could be Connecticut.
that's
Anyway, I appreciate everybody's feedback. I truly do. I got emails. I got calls. I got texts. I got. I'm trying to find the Will Cain Show one real quick. Like
the actual one.
back to the podcast.
I got everything from everybody. And like I said, I've got to be patient with myself. I hope you'll be patient with me, both on content, aesthetics, but the one through line on all of it is whether or not you like me, respect me, dislike me, think I have something added value to offer to how you hear about the news that day. The one through line is I will do my best to be me. Will Cain. All right, our lunch break panel coming up next on The Will Cain Show. It's The Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel, and the Fox News Facebook page. Terrestrial radio, some 30-odd markets across the nation, and also available at Spotify or on Apple by hitting subscribe. Man, I was watching Newsroom this morning. I saw a fascinating clip. Okay, so one of the big debates going on is about birthright citizenship. Trump has signed an executive order suggesting he's going to do away with birthright citizenship. The idea that if you're born here in America on its soil, it grants you automatic citizenship. It's worthy of a lot of discussion and deep dive, because everybody needs to understand it. Because like Dan Two-A-Days, my producer's sitting there saying the Brooklyn brunch crew's afraid that they're not going to be Americans because maybe their granddad wasn't born in America. But there was a clip on Newsroom with a conservative commentator. Okay. In fact, I want you to listen to, I know this guy. His name's Noah Rothman, and he's with National Review. And I want you to listen to what he thinks about this whole issue of birthright citizenship.
Donald Trump does this at the expense of his other priorities. There's opportunity cost to everything you do. He has wide latitude to address illegal immigration. We are not talking about illegal immigration. We're talking about legal immigration. Think of the common sense that he evoked in his inaugural address. What do people think of when they think of illegal immigrants? Are they thinking of the infant child of a person here on a student or work visa, which is what this EO does? Or are they talking about the adult population with no prospects and will likely become a ward of the state? That's who they're thinking of. And that's what he's taking his eye off the ball. It's inauspicious. What did Joe Biden down? Joe Biden had a very narrow remit when he entered office, and he allowed his administration to be captured by wild-eyed ideologues with no sense of the world outside their own cohort, who directed his administration to muscle through programs that the public did not like. He lost his mandate, and he lost his job. Donald Trump should take lessons from that.
I think that is bad analysis intellectually and politically. But let's see what my lunch break panel thinks. Let's bring in Rob Bluey. He's president and executive editor of the Daily Signal. And Vince August. He's a comedian who's joined us several times here on the Will Cain Show. What's up, guys?
Hey, Will. Good to be with you.
What's up, Will?
Glad to have
I'm
you.
thinking this is going to be a pre-tape for the 4 o'clock show, and you got me on this till the noon thing. What is this? I'm wearing a suit trying to look good, and you're wearing it just snowed in Dallas attire. What is this?
Yeah, that's right, Vince. This is the noon show. You don't know. No, and by the way, Rob, no need for the suit and tie on the noon version of the Will Cain Show.
We're just trying to up our game for you, Will.
Well, let's see if you can do that without the attire. Here we go. Rob, I want to start with you. You listened to what Noah Rothman had to say there. I think he's wrong. I think he's wrong on both fronts, intellectually and politically. So most of his argument was political, but let me just state intellectually for just one moment. I believe the United States of America is one of the only countries in the world that recognizes the concept of birthright citizenship. And what more, we don't recognize our citizens as being foreigners when they're born on some other soil. We suggest, hey, you're born in Saudi Arabia because your dad has a job in oil and gas. Guess what? You're still American. So we have this asymmetrical relationship with citizenship that nobody else in the world emulates. But more importantly, because it's the priority or the crux of his argument, Rob, politically, Donald Trump is not Joe Biden. And Donald Trump has shown a political instinct that has maximized opportunities over and over and over in pursuit and accomplishment of success in a way that the conservatives who lecture him have failed at for decades. Your thoughts, Rob?
Absolutely, Will. I 100% agree with you. I know Noah. First of all, I should say congratulations on the debut yesterday. I watched. It was awesome, and
Thank
look
you,
forward
man.
to watching every day at 4 o'clock. But on this particular issue of birthright citizenship, Noah is wrong, as you articulated. And first of all, it should come as no surprise to anyone that Donald Trump was going to do this. I mean, if there's been a consistent theme over the last 2 days, it's promises made, promises kept. I mean, he is just fulfilling everything he said that he would do on the campaign trail. And it's not like this is the first time we're debating the issue of birthright citizenship. This has been something that's been long discussed in this country. It was a topic that was discussed even during Trump's first term. And so I think that the other important distinction here about Trump's order is this is not retroactive, meaning that those individuals who are already here, who've already been born, and who are fearing that they may be deported, that it starts, I think, in mid-February or toward the end of February. So, I mean, we're talking about, something that will happen in the future. And that is a good move on the part of Trump, because I think that he probably would come into not only political problems if he were to do it retroactively, but it also sets out a clear standard for what it means to be an American citizen. And that is something that over the last 4 years has been a problem in this country with the influx of so many millions of illegal immigrants and the fact that they don't necessarily assimilate into our country the way that people did in the past.
So, Vince, I want to just give the audience a little more color on what this is all about, birthright citizenship. So it's grounded in the 14th Amendment. And the Supreme Court has interpreted the 14th Amendment on more than one occasion to include people who are born on this soil. The people this applies to the most are what detractors have called anchor babies. So an illegal immigrant comes to the United States, has a baby in the United States. That baby is an American citizen, and then you can establish what is chain legal migration. So once that kid is an American citizen, it's like, well, what about the parents have to take care of the baby, and on and on and on and on. So that's really the issue here, at least from an intellectual and legal perspective, Vince.
Yeah, and listen, I'm a lawyer, and I'm going to tell you, coming from a legal perspective, I think he knows, I think his administration knows, he's got a huge hurdle here. I understand politically what he's doing is he made promises and he's trying to keep his promise. I think if this goes to the Supreme Court, I think he has a very high burden, and I think it's going to be difficult for him. Now, I'm also going to come to this, Will, as son of immigrants. My parents migrated here in 1957, and, the middle sibling, my sister, was born of parents that weren't yet citizens. So, there's a couple of ways to look at this. I know that the immediate reaction is looking what happened in the last 4 years. But there are other situations where people have migrated here, have not got their citizenship yet, or want to become citizens, and their kids are born here. That's why you have to be careful, and you can't just throw everyone into this same basket of the illegal migration and what we let happen on the border. So there's a lot of ways, and there's a nuanced way to look at it other than,
But Vince, I would argue, and I appreciate that perspective that you bring through your own. First of all, you're a lawyer. I agree with you. I actually think this is set up to create a constitutional challenge and then get the Supreme Court to revisit this once again. He knows very well that it is illegal. Right now, it's in conflict. The EO is in conflict with the precedent of the Supreme Court. I also appreciate you bringing your personal perspective, Vince. What I would say, though, is this is like my buddy, my producer, Two-A-Days Dan, saying the Brooklyn brunch crew is all worried, oh, my God, I won't be an American citizen, I'm deported. That's not the leap you take, right? Just because you may be born in America to see people who are not citizens, and now you're not a citizen, doesn't mean there's a path through which you can obtain citizenship. Like, there is a way to do this. It doesn't mean immediate deportation.
No, I get that. And my concern isn't that there's not another way. My concern is you have this that's set up by a constitutional amendment. When you start going after constitutional amendments, you have to do it with, full clarity and description of what you're going after. So you have to be clear with regards to children of illegal immigrants and not just people born here, not of citizens. So I think the language needs to be more clear. And I think, listen, with Trump, we know what it is that upsets the other side so much. It's not always what he's trying to accomplish. It's the way he puts it out there. And I think it's the way it's described, the wording, the messaging.
Well, let's stay. I want to stay on the politics of this for one more moment, and we can expand it beyond birthright citizenship. So you mentioned, Rob, you know Noah. I know Noah a little bit. I think it's fair, like at least at one point, to describe, and this isn't about Noah as an individual, but to describe him as a never Trumper. I am interested in his analysis reminds me of conservative analysis, which, by the way, I've been a commentator and on this side of the aisle for a long time, including pre-Trump. And I was at one time skeptical of Trump. So I own everything. But that thought process that I hear from Noah feels very yesterday and doesn't really seem like it has a place in today and tomorrow. And what I'm getting at is this whole never Trump wing of the Republican side of the aisle, which, by the way, a lot of them really morphed into anti-Trump. Like they became, in some ways, indistinguishable from the left. I don't know what their future is in the dialogue, the political dialogue of America.
It's going to be very interesting to watch. And you're absolutely right. I'd probably put them into two camps. You have the Bill Kristol types who are clearly anti-Trump, and anything he does, he will take the opposite opinion. I mean, Trump could come out as a neocon, and Bill Kristol might still go in the other direction. But then you have others like Bret Stephens at the New York Times, who I believe wrote a column before the end of the last year, who said, hey, look, I'm a never Trumper. My positions are quite clear. They've been out there in the public for a long time. But, I'm willing to give him a chance. I'm willing to see what he's able to do and help turn around the country. So there will be some in that never Trump camp who may actually see, okay, there were 79 million Americans who voted for this guy. He won the popular vote. He won all of the swing states. He did all of these things that appealed to new groups of individuals who traditionally would vote for Democrats. Maybe my position on this guy is a little bit off base, and I should give him a chance and let him see what he can do to not only fix the economy, but stop the border crisis, bring down crime, all those other issues that he campaigned upon.
Vince, remind me where you're from. You got a big Northeastern vibe. Where are you from?
I am from Bergen County, New Jersey, Hackensack. My parents migrated from Palermo, Sicily.
Okay. Bergen's in North Jersey, right?
Yeah,
Isn't
right
that
across the George Washington Bridge to the city.
Okay, so this this isn't a shot right across the bow for you. In fact, you may love this shot, but I don't know what's going on with our brothers in Philadelphia. They're very excited about the Eagles, but their mayor, I don't know if we're going to call this representative of Philly fans or not. Their mayor is having trouble with spelling. Watch this.
ELGS, Eagles! Let's go, Birds!
How did she spell it? ELGSES? Is that what she said?
Wow. Let me tell you something. I hope she's not a fan of the NCAA tournament, because you got teams like the Salukis in there, the Billikens. You get UC Santa Barbara Gauchos, and I don't know what she's going to do. I mean, she's going to have all kinds of problems. Someone better help her with a bracket.
It's not a good showing for Philly. The question is, how typical is it for Eagles fans? She did get "Go Birds" right, Rob.
She did, and she a day later came out and made fun of herself. So that self-deprecating humor, I guess,
she did.
Is a redeeming quality. Yeah.
I mean, I can see if it's not like, if it's a difficult bird. It's literally an eagle. It's the national symbol of our country. It's not like spelled peregrine falcon. I mean, you got to know how to spell eagle,
and
man.
It's their chant, by the way. By the way, Rob, I think it's great she made fun of herself. I very much appreciate and understand the power and the necessity to make fun of yourself on occasion. But hey, maybe the big takeaway, she's a politician, because how big an Eagles fan can she be if she's not used to chanting out EAGLES, because that's their chant. It'd be like me going, I don't even know how to bastardize this. Like, hook 'em horns, horns hook 'em. Like, if I just got it wrong, like how big a fan can I be?
Maybe blame the cold weather in Philly. I'm not sure, Will. I don't know how she messed it up so badly. Hopefully, for Eagles fans, it's not a sign of things to come for the game this weekend. Certainly, Jaden Daniels wants to have other plans for the Super Bowl. But hey, look, nobody's perfect. Hey, look at you. We were just talking about Jessica Waters. I mean, so we can all laugh about these things, but at the end of the day, I think if you're the mayor of a city, you should probably know how to spell your biggest team's name.
Yeah. Okay. As a preview here, as we head into the 4 o'clock hour a little bit later today, one of the things I'm going to be focused on is Donald Trump sunsetting DEI initiatives, DEI departments, and DEI personnel across the federal government, which begins at 5 p.m. today. In essence, the 4 p.m. show, the Will Cain Show, will be a countdown to paid leave for DEI employees. What do you think, Vince?
Well, listen, I talked about this on Gutfeld once, and when you get into DEI, I know the knee-jerk reaction is that none of it comes with merit, and I think we have to be careful. Again, I'm going to put on my lawyer hat here as someone who's represented clients that get pulled over that don't speak English and are given instructions maybe with regards to a DWI stop. And if you don't have an officer on that force that speaks that language, it gives rise to all kinds of potential defenses. So like you look at a town like here in New Jersey, we have towns that are predominantly Korean neighborhood. And if you say, well, all of the candidates here and all the cops here are white or black or something that's not Korean, for us to hire a Korean officer, that's DEI. No, it's not always that. You can have merit mixed in where you do bring in people that are more representative or there is a need to fill, but that doesn't mean you have to drop standards. So with regards to DEI, I think we have to be careful. Look, we don't want that to be the standard, but there is a time where you have to look and say, look, we do need more diverse people that meet the standards we have.
Yeah, I think you're off, Vince. Here's why I think you're off.
Let's do this.
The type of diversity you just described is actually merit. So anti-DEI, doing away with DEI doesn't mean white. That's not what it means. It means I am hiring exclusively for merit, not because I feel the need to have some sense of representation defined by I don't know what. But in your case, if you have a Korean town, is it meritorious to have officers who understand that community? The answer is yes. You see what I'm saying? Like that's not in pursuit of a DEI initiative of fulfilling certain quotas. That's not what that is. That's hiring an officer who can best do his job.
But let me counter that. So if you give a police test, and again, we need someone that, look, for certain pat downs, you pull over someone who's a woman, you want to have a female cop there, whatever. So you give a police test and there are 10 candidates that come in and that woman is 5th or that Asian person is 5th. And, it's a matter of a couple of points separating one from 5th, but you do need that candidate. At that point, are you saying, look, in this particular police test, it's just for women, it's just for Asians, it's just for Hispanics, and we're going to take that best person, because now that's a different test, it's a different standard. So that's where I'm saying there is nuance to this. Now, I do agree, again, please, before I start getting hate mail from everybody on the right, I'm not saying that is the only reason you hire. What I'm saying is there is a nuanced approach to keep merit, but say we do have to fill a position with someone with this characteristic. You know what I'm saying there, Will?
Okay. Yes, and I have thoughts, but I want to get Rob into this discussion.
Well, I would
Go
just
ahead,
say,
Rob.
I mean, separating the hiring question, I would just make sure that we don't lose the focus of what these DEI offices in the federal government are doing, and that is completely transforming the workforce. I mean, providing re-education programs for individuals and sensitivity trainings, and it's not just happening in the federal government. I mean, one of the other elements of the executive order was that universities that have endowments of over $1 billion are now going to come under scrutiny for this as well. And so this is a broad and sweeping executive order. Again, it goes back to promises made, promises kept. And I think that I'm more on Will's side on this when it comes to the merit of the hiring process. But I do think that as we look at a bloated federal government and the massive debt that we need to get under control, I mean, this is just a tiny sliver, but it's probably one of the necessary ones to start with.
So I think my thoughts to you, Vince, jump off of what Rob just said. So DEI, first of all, as an ideological and policy-driven concept, is one that is totally divorced from merit. It's actually not connected to the situation that you just described. I believe DEI is a Marxist philosophy that is riding in under the banner of racial identity politics. It doesn't matter what the division is. In the past, it was class. Now it's race. But it's used to divide people in America so that others can take advantage in power structures. But that's what I believe it is. As Rob described, it's a top-down approach. It's not a bottom-up hiring practice. So what I mean by that is, let me think of a good example. So in my past life, I'm going to share this story. You know, I owned a business for quinceañeras, right? It was a quinceañera planning business, meaning magazine, website, event company. We sold ad space. I hired a woman from Cuba, Black, Cuban, Latina, right? Speaks Spanish. And I remember someone of most of the shop owners in America on quinceañeras are Mexican-American. And they were like, hey, that's probably not going to be the best sales relationship. And I didn't know, whatever. But they explained to me, like, you taking into account the ethnic backgrounds of people. Like, if you're going to Cubans, hire Cubans. If you're going to Mexicans, hire Mexicans. If you're policing Koreans, hire some Koreans. If you're patting down women, hire some women. I don't think that acknowledgement of how it aids your merit-based accomplishment of your job is what we're losing or should be losing with DEI. I think what we're losing is the top-down approach that Rob describes, where some overlord and policy look down and go, look at that police force. You don't have enough of X, Y, or Z, and that means you are violating DEI policies.
And listen, again, I'm with you with the way you described it, but I think we also have to acknowledge that sometimes the left hijacks something that is good, does have merit, and then they turn it into something that it wasn't created originally to do. And then what happens is, and we've talked about this, and this is why the election turned out the way it did, the pendulum swings so far that, again, you lose what the real intent is. And again, the real intent in certain situations, the situation I described is, we do need a person that can relate to this situation, this circumstance. So we do specifically have this need, as opposed to my vice president is going to be a woman and is going to be Black. Okay, well, then what you're saying is, for that specific job, I don't know that is a requirement need. You created that requirement need based on your own ideology and what you want to put forth on a ticket, Joe Biden. But that's different than what I'm describing, which is we have a certain neighborhood that speaks predominantly this language. We have no one that speaks this language. We need someone to do that. You know what I'm saying? So there's a difference between
or cultural understanding. Yes, I get all of it. I think it's beyond language.
And again,
cultural understanding, whatever it may be.
Right, but in filling that need, we have to acknowledge that maybe another candidate could have done everything else better in that job, but that one need. And to me, that's what DEI truly should be, as opposed to, look, we need, you know what, we got to balance out the numbers here. It's 9 guys, 1 woman. No, it's got to be 5 and 5. Well, hold on a second. Now we're talking about work quotas and different things. So again, DEI in its essence, when it's created, isn't a bad thing. It is if you make it the only thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that one of the Vince, I'm so glad you mentioned Joe Biden here, because I think one of the things that Americans were revolting against is the fact that it was very clear from the very beginning that he picked Kamala Harris because of her skin color, and he picked Ketanji Brown Jackson for the Supreme Court because of her skin color and her sex. And so those were things that the American people said, wait, this is fundamentally against what we believe in this country. How can you put that above the merit and the other characteristics? And so this is why Donald Trump has made this a priority on day one of his administration. And I think it's why, he set this 5 p.m. deadline today to make sure that his government roots it out to the extent that they're able to.
That's a really fascinating discussion, Vince. I'm glad you took the position that you did. I'm glad we were able to have that conversation. I've enjoyed this entire thing. Vince August, by the way, comedian, check him out. He's a former judge. He's a lawyer now. He's on YouTube and he's on X, Vince August 21. And Rob Bluey, he's the president and executive editor at the Daily Signal. I check out the Daily Signal all the time, Rob. I'm glad this is the first time you're on the Will Cain Show. Hope to have you both on more. Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you. All joking aside, congratulations on 4 o'clock. Look forward to hearing you every day.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Take care, fellas. All right, speaking of that, I got a lot of work to do. I got to get ready. Should we just hang out a little longer, guys? Should we just drag this out? Or do I go get to work and ready for 4 p.m.? I'll see you back here, right here, same time, same place, again, for the Will Cain Show. I'll see you next time.